Authors POV. The campus auditorium smelled like dust, old velvet, and cheap energy drinks fairy lights had been strung haphazardly along the back wall, their warm glow doing little to disguise the peeling paint. Folded chairs, tangled cables, abandoned sheet music, and a half-eaten bag of chips sat scattered across the stage like a still life of student chaos. In the middle of it all, Jeon Jungkook stood with a mic in one hand and a guitar strap slung over his shoulder, the wire trailing to an amp that buzzed faintly. "Again," he said, breathless, from the bridge. His voice carried easily over the clatter the drummer groaned. "Hyung, we've hit this bridge so many times it's legally ours now. People will start paying us royalties. Then we won't mess it up on Saturday," Jungkook shot back, lips quirking despite his intensity. From the bridge, he nodded to the pianist, who rolled his eyes but started the count. In the front row, Y/N watched them from the edge of the stage, one leg dangling, a notebook balanced on her lap, pen tucked behind her ear. Technically, she wasn't part of the band officially. She was the dance captain for the university's performance club and a volunteer vocal coach for the festival. Unofficially, she had become the person they all went to when a harmony didn't sit right or a stage move looked awkward. Her gaze followed Jungkook. He moved like he belonged on a bigger stage than this, confident, precise, a little wild around the edges. His black t-shirt clung to his back where sweat had darkened the fabric, a tattoo peeking out from under his sleeve. When he shifted, he closed his eyes on the high note, knuckles whitening on the guitar neck. The sound that came out was pure lightning. Y/N's heart stuttered. She'd seen him perform at last year's campus festival, on a stage lit by phone flashlights and drunken cheering, and thought, "Oh, that one's different," not just because of his voice, because of the way he seemed to carry a whole future with him when he sang, like he was already halfway out of this small, temporary world and into a larger one that didn't know his name. Yet the song ended. They held for the last chord silence. Then the drummer whooped, "That's it, that's the one." The pianist leaned back, stretching his arms overhead. Our resident perfectionist finally happy. They all looked at Jungkook. He rolled the pick between his fingers, listening to the echo in the room, brow still slightly furrowed. Then he nodded. "It's closer," Y/N smiled. "Closer," the drummer repeated. "You're impossible." "Everyone take 10, Jungkook said, ignoring the complaint. "Hydrate, don't die. I need you alive for the chorus." The others scattered toward the water coolers and snack table. He set his guitar carefully on its stand and hopped down from the small riser. His eyes found Y/N. "You're frowning," he said. "I'm thinking," she corrected. "Same thing," he muttered. She rolled her eyes. "On the second, don't let me go. Your vowel is too closed. You're cutting off the resonance." He huffed a laugh. "I swear you enjoy finding more things for me to fix." "No," she said. "I enjoy it when you sound as good live as you do in your head." The compliment slipped out before she could stop it. He looked at her sharply, something unreadable flickering across his face. Then he clicked his tongue. "You're too honest." "You hired me for that," she pointed out. "Technically, the club begged you to help us," he said. "I just didn't say no." "Same thing." She echoed his earlier words. This time, he smiled. It did terrible things to her heart. She looked down at her notes, pretending to rewrite something that was already legible. From the first rehearsal. The pull toward him had been immediate and inconvenient. She'd walked in with a mic in one hand and a new choreography draft in the other, ready to coach a temperamental campus band that everyone called too serious for a student group. She hadn't expected to find Jeon Jungkook up close. He wasn't just talented. He was focused, intense, sharp, in a way that made everyone else in the room either step up or step back. He'd caught her eye at the initial briefing and given a small nod. "Do your thing," he'd said. "If it makes us better, I'm in." That had been their first rule. He only cared about better. Not fun, not popularity, not gossip. Better. Y/N had respected that, admired it, fallen for it slowly. Then all at once, now, as she watched him unwrap the tape on his fingers, she wondered when exactly her job had turned into emotional self-harm. "Don't overthink," Jungkook said suddenly. She blinked. "What? That face?" he said, nodding at her. "You get that face when you're about to suggest something that you're scared will refuse." She laughed weakly. "I'm just thinking about the ending. The turn, right before the last chorus. It feels unresolved." He tilted his head. "We wrote it unresolved on purpose." "I know," she said, "but maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe you can land somewhere, even if it's not a happy ending." He studied her for a moment. "Let's hear it," he said. She flipped to a clean page in her notebook. Grabbing her pen, words came quickly when she was near him, like her brain knew it had a limited time in his orbit. She scribbled an alternate line, then another, crossing one out, circling a phrase. When she finished, she tore the page out and held it out. He moved closer to take it. Their fingers brushed. Her breath hitched. He froze for a second. It wasn't the band leader and the vocal coach, just a boy and a girl in a half-dark auditorium, skin buzzing where they'd touched. Something flickered through his eyes, something that felt dangerously like "Me Too." Then he stepped back, masking it with a cough. He read the new line silently. His throat bobbed. "It's good," he said. "Too good. Too good is bad," she teased, trying to hide the way her heart was pounding. He looked up. His expression was suddenly serious in a way that made her stomach drop. "Can I talk to you about something?" Jungkook asked quietly. "No jokes." She straightened. "Okay." He glanced around. The others were still joking by the snack table. Oblivious, he sat on the edge of the stage across from her, elbows on his knees, paper still in hand. "You know, I'm auditioning next year," he said, "officially for real labels. No more campus shows. No more local festivals." She nodded. "You should. You're ready." His mouth curved, a ghost of a smile. "Industry's brutal," he continued. "Everyone knows that. They don't just sign voices. They sign images, stories, people they can sell." "I know how it works," she said softly. He drew in a slow breath. "I can't afford distractions," Jungkook said. "Not now. Maybe not for a long time." The knot in her stomach tightened. "You think I'm a distraction?" Y/N asked, trying to keep her tone light. "No," he said quickly. "You make us better. You make me better. You say the things I need to hear, not what I want to hear. That's rare." Her cheeks warmed. "Then what is this about?" she asked. He looked down at the lyric page. thumb rubbing over her handwriting. When we first met, Jungkook said, I made a rule with myself: no dating in the band, no dating in the club, no messy feelings that could blow everything up when we're this close to something real. She swallowed. He lifted his gaze and pinned her with it. And lately, he said quietly, I've been worrying that I'm making it harder for you to follow that rule. Her heartbeat stumbled. I don't, she started. He shook his head. Y/N, don't fall for me, Jungkook said, voice low but steady. It'll ruin everything. Your work here, my focus, the band, what I'm trying to build. I can't do love and ambition at the same time. I won't choose love, and it'll hurt you if you're standing too close when I don't. The words hit her like cold water. Her tongue felt heavy in her mouth. He watched the emotions flicker across her face: surprise, hurt, embarrassment, before she could mask them. I'm not saying this because I think you're weak, he added, softer now. You're the opposite. I'm saying it because I like having you here. I don't want to lose you to feelings I can't return. Something in her chest cracked a little. She laughed, the sound wobbly. Wow, she said, is that your way of saying you're great? But my dreams come first, he winced. That sounds worse than I meant it. Is it true? She asked. He hesitated, then nodded. Yes, he said. If it comes down to it, I'll choose the music, the shot, every time. Silence stretched between them. She looked down at her handset, the little ink smudge on her middle finger, at the notebook full of adjustments and encouragements and lines she'd written, secretly imagining his voice wrapping around them. It hurt. God, it hurt. But he'd given her something a lot of people didn't. He'd given her a choice. She could stay. She could leave. She could keep loving him quietly, or she could learn how to fold that love up and put it away. She forcefully lifted her chin. Okay. Y/N said. His brows drew together. Okay, I won't fall for you, she lied, past tense already, a lost cause. Not on purpose, anyway. I'll do my job. You do yours when you make it big. I'll be in the group chat saying, I told you so. Relief flashed in his eyes. Thank you, Jungkook said. You don't know how much easier you just made this for me. That stung more than she wanted it to. She smiled anyway. Worry, she said. Your precious focus is safe with me. He didn't notice the way her fingers tightened around her pen until her knuckles went white. He draws the line. Don't fall for me. And she decides she'll have to learn how not to /N. She keeps her promise out loud, but her heart doesn't get the memo until staying in love starts to hurt more than letting go. Authors Pav. The weeks that followed settled into a rhythm: classes, rehearsals, late-night snack runs, group chat memes, endless discussions about set lists, and lighting cues for the campus festival stage. From the outside, nothing had changed between Jungkook and Y/N. If anything, they looked closer. He'd start sending her rough voice memos at odd hours. Is this bridge too much? He'd ask at 1:37 a.m. She'd reply with, You're sharp on always. Try opening your mouth more and not killing your larynx. And he'd send back an eye roll emoji and a new take. She stopped letting her replies hang with hearts. She stopped screenshotting their conversations and smiling at them like a fool. She focused on the work. Y/N Pav. I tried to make it a rule. No more replaying his compliments in my head. No more wondering if "You're the only one who tells me the truth," meant anything beyond "you're useful." No more watching the way the stage lights hit his hair and thinking it looked like some anime boy I'd used to crush on. Every time my mind drifted there, I reminded myself, he told you not to fall. He told you he wouldn't choose you, believe him. So I poured everything into the parts of my life that didn't revolve around him: my grades, my other dance projects, my friends who nagged me to stop living at the auditorium. It helped a little. What didn't help was that he kept being him. "Are you eating?" he'd ask, poking my arm when I'd been hunched over choreography for too long. "Water." I'd lie. He'd thrust a granola bar into my hand. "You can't live off caffeine and vibes." When I came down with a cold 2 weeks before the festival, he showed up at my dorm with honey tea, a pack of tissues, and a stern lecture about rest. "My voice depends on you," he'd said, standing awkwardly in my doorway as my roommate watched from her bed with wide eyes. "If you die, I'll have to listen to people who say it's fine when it's not." I'd laughed until I coughed. He'd flinched and told me to get back in bed. None of it was romantic. All of it was dangerous. Because somewhere between the "don't fall for me" and the "please don't die, you're useful," I realized something. I couldn't keep standing in the exact same place, loving him alone and calling it endurance. At some point, staying started to feel like betraying myself. That point came on a Wednesday. Rain slapped against the auditorium windows. As the band ran, the full set energy crackled in the air. Festival, only 3 days away. Sound checks, nervous jokes, adrenaline building. I stood at the front, watching their formations, making notes. Jungkook hit the last chorus, sweat gleaming at his temple. His voice rode the track effortlessly. On the final, "Don't Let Me Go," his eyes flicked to mine. Something in my chest twisted. I looked down at my notebook. Deliberately, his jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. When the song ended, the room erupted into cheers from their friends, from random club members who'd come to watch, from a few early arriving staff. Again, the drummer yelled, "Break first," the pianist said, "My fingers want a divorce." I stepped back, giving them space as people crowded around to high-five them. Y/N. Someone called. I turned. Junho, one of the newer trainees for the performance club, jogged over. He was a year younger, with kind eyes and a perpetually crooked name tag. "Hey," I said. "How'd it sound?" "You already know you cooked," he replied. "I came to return this." He held up a water bottle. I frowned. I didn't even realize I lost that. "You left it in Studio B yesterday," he explained. "You looked like you were about to ascend from exhaustion, so I thought you might need it." I laughed. He grinned. It was easy. The way conversation flowed with him. No tightrope between professional and personal. No unspoken rules. "Thanks," I said, taking the bottle. "You saved me from passing out mid-count." "Couldn't let the only person who fixes my rhythm die," he joked. "We still need to run that duet." He mimed a lousy attempt at our last routine. I snorted. "Your shoulders are getting better," I said kindly. "Your hands are still confused, though." "Tragic," he sighed dramatically. "Guess we'll need another practice. Maybe coffee after, as a thank you/bribe. Flushed heat crawled up my neck. Not because it was a big deal. It was just coffee. But he was clearly interested. And for once, the interest wasn't followed by don't. Depends on how hard you work, I said, trying to tease without killing it. He grinned, triumphant somewhere behind us. Someone laughed loudly at a joke the room buzzed. But I felt a prickle on the back of my neck like someone was staring. I glanced over my shoulder. Jungkook stood near the amp, towel around his neck, water bottle in hand, watching us. He wasn't smiling. His jaw had gone sharp. Eyes darkening, our gazes locked. I held his for once, not looking away. He was the one who moved first. He turned on his heel and walked toward the back, shoulders stiff. My heart pounded, not in the old way, in a new one that said, "You're allowed to step toward people who step toward you." When rehearsal ended, I grabbed my things quickly. Y/N. Junho called. "Studio B tomorrow?" "Yeah," I said. "Text me the time." He gave a small bow. "See you." I slipped out before my feet could change their mind behind me. Jungkook watched her walk away with her phone lighting up in a thread that wasn't his. For the first time, the distance between her and someone else felt less like background noise and more like a warning siren. She starts to move on, and he feels the first sting of being left behind. /N. He created the rule to keep his heart untouched. Now, he has to watch her apply it to him, while someone else gets the softness he took for granted. Authors POV. Festival day dawned. Unreasonably bright banners flapped in the crisp wind. Students rushed around with clipboards and tangled extension cords. Food trucks lined the courtyard. The air was full of frying oil, squealing feedback, and the metallic clank of stage scaffolding being adjusted for the 100th time backstage. Chaos had its own choreography. Performers stretched, adjusted outfits, practiced lines, retouched makeup in small cracked mirrors. Crew members yelled time calls over the noise. Walkie-talkies crackling. Y/N stood with the band near the edge of the stage. Headset pushed back, so it hung around her neck. Clipboard covered in notes. "E on in 15, she said. "Remember, camera B favors stage left, so don't all crowd stage right on the last chorus like you always do." The drummer saluted. "Yes, Mom." She smacked his arm with the clipboard. Jungkook adjusted his in-ear monitors, fingers steady. He looked calm. "Breath check." Y/N asked, stepping closer, automatically falling into her coach voice. "You lock your jaw when you're nervous." "I'm not nervous," he said. "You say that," she replied. "But your shoulders are up here." Before she could stop herself, her hands rose to his shoulders, fingers pressing gently, guiding them down. He inhaled, exhaled. Her palm felt the expansion of his ribcage, the heat of his skin through his shirt. For a second, it was muscle memory, the same closeness, the same quiet bubble they always created before a show. Until she remembered "Don't fall for me." She dropped her hands, stepped back. "Better," she said briskly. "You've got this." He watched her, something like confusion flickering across his face. He was used to the way she used to look at him, soft, encouraging, like he was already the version of himself he wanted to be today. There was a wall, not unfriendly, just distant. Y/N, he started. "Band B, you're lining up now." A stage manager yelled over them, "Let's go, let's go." He swallowed his words later. He told himself he'd talk to her. After the set, he'd have time. They moved into position in the wings. The MC's voice boomed through the speakers. Introducing them, the crowd roared. A sea of students pressing closer to the stage. Phones up. Remember the new ending? Y/N said into Jungkook's earpiece. Landed, his lips twitched. Yes, coach. He walked out into the lights. The first chords hit, all the noise in his head silenced. This was the one place he never doubted. The set flew by, in a blur of sweat and sound. By the time they reached the last song, the crowd was wild, jumping, singing along, shouting his name Y/N watched from the side. Heart in her throat, on the second chorus. His eyes found hers. Just for Bichi forced herself to give him a professional thumbs up. Not the warm, heart-eyed smile she used to. Something in his expression tightened on the final bridge. He changed the melody slightly, adding a new run they'd never rehearsed. The crowd screamed show off. When the last note rang out, the place exploded. He stood center stage, chest heaving, eyes shining under the lights. Thank you, Jungkook panted into the mic, grinning despite himself. You guys have been the best crowd. See you next year, maybe on a bigger stage. Cheers. He bowed as he turned to jog off stage. He glanced automatically toward the wings. He expected to see Y/N. He didn't. She was further back, near the tech table, laughing at something Junho had said, one hand on his arm to steady herself. Something hot and ugly flared in his chest. Jungkook pav. It felt like running full speed and suddenly hitting a wall-eyed, just come off the high of the stage. Crowd chanting, lights blinding, the rush of nailing the last note, and my body still hummed with adrenaline. Then I saw her not looking at me. She'd always been there beforehand, out for a mic smile that said, told you you'd kill it. Eyes only on me. Now she was tilted toward him. Junho, he'd been around more lately, helping with staging, asking her questions, bringing her snacks like it was a mission. I'd told myself it was harmless. It was my fault if my chest tightened. Every time I saw them together, I'd set the rule. I'd drawn the line. I'd told her not to cross it. I hadn't expected her to apply it to me so thoroughly. As we came off stage, the drummer thumped my back. We destroyed it, Hyung. Yeah, I said automatically. Eyes still on her, he followed my gaze. Oh, he said. Looks like Junho's shooting his shot again. My jaw clenched. What? You didn't notice? He asked. Guy's been orbiting her like she's the sun. Honestly, can't blame him. She's don't, I snapped. I know, he lifted his hands. Okay, just saying. Y/N finally spotted us and hurried over. Insane, she said, breathless. You guys were insane. The new run. I hate you for not telling me, but the crowd ate it. My heart lifted a little at the way she talked, like always. Then I noticed it. She didn't touch my arm, didn't reach for my mic, didn't fuss with my in-ears. She kept a small, polite distance. We'll debrief later, she said. Go change, hydrate. Don't pass out in the crowd, or I'll have to drag you back on stage for encore. Who says there'll be an encore? I teased, waiting for her eye roll. There will be, Junho called from behind her, approaching with 2 water bottles. He handed one to her. I heard them chanting already. Y/N took the bottle. Thanks. Get used to it, Nuna, he said. You work with future legends. I smirked automatically. He was right. But the way he looked at her when he said it, like she hung the moon, made something unpleasant twist inside me. They're legends, because she stays up yelling at them about breath support, Junho added, grinning. You guys should worship her, honestly. I should have smiled instead. I heard my own voice in my head, don't fall for me. I won't choose you. I watched her laugh as joke watched her cheeks, flush watched her look, lighter than she ever did around me anymore. Hey, she said, noticing my silence. You okay? No. Yes, I said, then go change, she insisted. You're dripping on the floor. The others moved toward the dressing area. I stayed. Why/N? I said quietly. She looked up. Meet me on the side stairs after the encore, I told her. 5 minutes. Alone. Her brows drew together. Is something wrong? Yeah, I said before I could stop myself, and I think I finally know what. The stage manager called us the crowd, started chanting our band's name. I turned and walked back into the lights, the roar swallowing me. But for the first time, they weren't the loudest thing in my chest. He sees her start to move on, and the jealousy he's been denying finally hits hard enough to crack him. A/N, the boy who warned her not to fall, finally realizes he's the one plummeting. And the ground is rushing up fast. Author's POV. The encore was shorter, messier, louder. The band leaned into it, feeding off the crowd's energy. Jungkook dragged the mic stand closer, letting them sing half the lines, sweat dampening his hair, adrenaline burning away the last of his hesitation. On the final shout, he held the mic out. The crowd screamed the last word. Lights flashed, music crashed. They bowed as one, breathless and laughing, then sprinted off stage before the event organizers could scold them for going over time. Backstage was a blur of congratulations, backslaps, and you killed it. SY/N stayed near the soundboard, headset back on, handling whatever post-set chaos needed her attention. Levels were good, she told the tech. Guitar could come up a notch for the recording, but live, it was fine. She was halfway through reminding a junior to coil cables properly when her headset crackled. Off duty for 5, someone said. Your name's being yelled down the side stairwell. She blinked, then remembered the side stairs. Jungkook. She hesitated, then exhaled and headed toward the door. The side stairwell was a narrow concrete space between the auditorium and the admin building, lit by a single flickering bulb. It smelled like rain and damp stone. The sounds of the festival muffled to a distant thump. Jungkook stood halfway down, hoodie thrown over his stage clothes, hair still damp, water bottle dangling from one hand. He looked up when the door clicked. For a second, neither of them spoke. Jungkook POV, up close. Without the stage between us, I could see everything I'd been trying not to see. The new distance in her eyes, the tiredness in her shoulders, the way she shifted her weight, ready to leave if this turned into another conversation about my ambition. You wanted to talk, she asked. I said. My voice came out rougher than I expected. She waited. I swallowed. The words I'd rehearsed backstage tangled on my tongue. First, I said, you were amazing. Today, all week, all month. None of this works without you. She gave a small smile. I know. That should have made me laugh. It didn't. I'm serious, I said. This could be something real. Bigger than this campus, and a huge part of that is you. Jungkook, she said gently. If this is another speech about how you can't let anything derail your shot. It's not, I interrupted. Her mouth snapped shut, silence stretched. I gripped the water bottle harder. When I told you not to fall for me, I said slowly, I thought I was protecting both of us. I thought if I drew the line, I'd keep things clean, professional, safe. I let out a humorless laugh. Turns out, I continued, I was just making sure I'd be the only idiot in this equation. Her brows furrowed. What? I saw you with him, I said, Junho. And I realized you listened to me. She blinked. That was the point. No, I said. You listened. You started pulling back. You stopped looking at me the way you used to. You stopped waiting for my messages. You stopped hoping. My chest tightened. And like the absolute fool I am, I added, I only realized how much I needed that hope when it wasn't there anymore. Her throat bobbed. Jungkook. Y/N said quietly, you told me you wouldn't choose me, that if it came down to it, you'd pick your music, your career, your shot. I believed you. I still do. I'm not going to stand here and pretend that doesn't matter. It does, I admitted. It has for so long I forgot how to want anything else. I took a shaky breath. But today, I said, on that stage, when I looked over and you weren't waiting for me, when you were laughing with someone who had never told you don't, something in me, I searched for the word, snapped. She stared. I zoned out in the middle of the second verse, I confessed. Almost missed a cue, me. The guy who lectures everyone else about focus. I couldn't stop thinking about how I'd told you not to fall like I was some noble martyr, when really, I was just a coward scared of losing control. There it was, the word I'd never used on myself. Coward. Her eyes softened. I pressed on. You asked me once if this was true, if I'd really choose the dream over you. I didn't answer properly. I hid behind principles and rules. So I'm answering now. I stepped closer, not close enough to corner her, close enough to make my heart race. If the choice is between a future where I make it, but have to watch you move on with someone else, I said, voice breaking, and a future where I might not get as far but you're by my side, while I try, I'll choose you every time. Her lips parted. That's not a line, I added quickly. It's not a grand gesture for some movie. It's me, finally realizing that whatever stage I end up on will feel empty if I know I pushed away the one person who saw me before everyone else did. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, a tear slipped anyway. I asked you not to fall for me, I whispered, and then shattered the second you actually started listening. Do you have any idea how messed up that is? Her hand twitched at her side like she wanted to reach for me. She didn't, not yet. Why are you telling me this now? She asked, voice barely audible. Because I read the ending changing, I said. I watched you choose someone kinder. Someone who hasn't spent months telling you to put your heart on a shelf. I realized I was about to become a verse in your life, not the chorus. I swallowed. And I can't live with that, I finished hoarsely. I can't live knowing I pushed you into someone else's arms and called it protection. Her eyes glistened. Jungkook, she whispered. My hand shook. I forced it still. I don't expect you to just forget everything, I said, but I need you to know I was wrong. About love. About what it means for my dreams. About what it means for me. I stepped close enough that I could see my reflection in her eyes, small and wrecked. I already fell for you. Y/N, I said, the words tearing out of me. I've been in love with you for longer than I have the courage to admit. And watching you stop trying to love me back is the worst thing I've ever put myself through. Her breath hitched. That was when the door to the stairwell banged open. They both flinched. Junho stuck his head in. There you are. The club's doing a group photo. Oh. Sorry. His gaze flicked between them. He took in Jungkook's two bright eyes. Y/N's stunned expression. That warmth in his own eyes dimmed a fraction. I can come back later, he said. Y/N opened her mouth. Jungkook's hand clenched at his side. Go, Jungkook said softly. You should go. She turned to him, startled. We're not done, she started. I know, he said. I'll wait. I've made you wait long enough. The honesty in his voice rooted her in place for a heartbeat longer. Then she nodded, almost dazed, and followed Junho out, the door swinging shut behind them. He sank down on the steps, elbows on his knees, palms over his face. His shoulders shook once, twice for the first time since he'd started chasing stages. Jeon Jungkook let himself break all the way down over something that had nothing to do with music. His confession is out. Now it's her turn to decide if it's too late. A/N. She's torn between the boy who finally says, I love you, and the woman she promised herself she'd be without him. Author's POV. The group photo was a blur. Students crammed onto the stage, some holding props, some flashing peace signs, others half crying from adrenaline and end-of-semester exhaustion. Someone yelled for everyone to squeeze in more. Someone else dropped a prop sword. Y/ and stood in the back row, smile plastered on, heart very much not in the room. Closer, the photographer shouted. We're losing people off the frame. Junho stepped slightly in front of her to make space. You okay? He murmured out of the corner of his mouth. You look like you just saw a ghost. Something like that, she replied. Want me to accidentally block you from sight? He joked. No one can tell you looked stunned if they can't see you. She let out a short, grateful laugh. The shutter clicked. The group broke apart, scattering into friend clusters. Junho turned to her fully. You sure you're all right? He asked. We don't have to run that duet tonight if I'm okay, she said quickly. Just tired. You were incredible today, he said. Really? The way you handle everything. He trailed off, searching for a word. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She already knew who it was. She didn't check. Thanks, she said, but you know it's a team effort. Sticky tape and caffeine did half the work. He smiled. Can I still bribe you with that coffee we talked about? Junho asked, a bit more hesitant now. Not tonight, God no, we're all dead. But someday, when we're not running on fumes. She hesitated a few weeks ago. The idea would have felt like oxygen, proof she could build something that wasn't centered around someone who pushed her away now. The image of Jungkook sitting alone on cold concrete steps, eyes shining, voice breaking. I already fell for you, refused to leave her head. That's not a no, Junho said, when she took too long. She exhaled. I need to figure my life out before I let anyone buy me coffee with ulterior motives. He laughed, but there was a soft understanding beneath it. Fair, he said. When you figure it out, I'll be around, with caffeine and better shoulders. Your shoulders are fine, she said. You just like being mean, he countered. Maybe, she admitted. He took a step back. "Whatever happens," Junho said, "don't let anyone make you feel like you're an obstacle in their story. You're the main character, okay?" Emotion caught in her throat unexpectedly. "Thanks," she whispered. He gave a small salute. Then he was dragged away by friends yelling his name. She stood in the middle of the chaos for another moment, listening to the distant thump of the after-party music, starting up, feeling the weight of the choice waiting for her in that stairwell. Finally, she turned and walked back/NPOV. The door creaked as I pushed it open. He was still there, sitting 2 steps up from the landing, elbows on his knees, hands clasped loosely, gaze fixed on some point on the wall. His hoodie was rumpled. His hair had dried into soft waves. His eyes looked calmer, but also older. He stood quickly when he saw me. "You came back," Jungkook said quietly. "I said I would," I replied. He nodded for a second. Neither of us seemed to know where to start. "You cried," I said finally. It wasn't a question. A faint, almost self-conscious smile ghosted his lips. "I did," he admitted. "Not my most glamorous moment." "It's my fault," I blurted. His head snapped up. "No, it's not. Don't do that." I pushed, I said. "I stayed. I kept loving you when you asked me not to. I made everything harder." "Stop," he said, sharper now. "I told you not to fall, and then I acted like I wasn't already halfway down. That's not on you. That's on me." I swallowed. Silence stretched. "I don't know what to do," I confessed. "You saying you love me now doesn't erase months of feeling like I was something to be warned off, something dangerous to your future." "I know," he said, voice thick. "I wish I could go back and shake the version of me that thought that was noble." He scrubbed a hand over his face. "I don't expect you to just say, 'Okay, cool, all forgiven. Let's make out behind the stage,'" he added, trying for a weak joke, even though my stupid heart would very much like that. Despite everything, I huffed a laugh. He smiled, small and sad. I hesitated. "I started trying to unlove you. For real. Not in a dramatic diary way." I told myself I couldn't keep waiting for someone who told me exactly what his priorities were. Then I showed up and messed that up too, he said. "At least you're consistent," I muttered. He winced. Ow, I took a breath. "Do you actually want me?" I asked bluntly. "As more than staff, more than a pre-debut story you can file under tragic, almost love. Do you want me in the real life you're building? With the schedules, the distance, the pressure, the eyes on you all the time?" "Yes," he said, without hesitation. "I want you in all of it. I want you in the messy parts, not just the highlight reels. I want to come off whatever stage I end up on and look for you first." His certainty shook me. "And if your dream asks you to choose," I pushed. "If a company says no dating, no distractions, if fans cross lines, if it gets ugly," his jaw clenched. "Then we decide together what choosing looks like," he said. "Not me unilaterally dumping you for my career and calling it sacrifice." He stepped closer. "I won't lie to you," Jungkook added. "There will be moments where I'll be tired and scared and tempted to retreat back into the old me, the one who says no before anyone can hurt him. When that happens, I'm asking you now to call me out, to remind me of this moment, of how it felt to watch you walk toward someone else, because I wasn't brave enough to walk toward you." His voice wavered. But I'm also promising, he whispered, to fight myself for you, to not use my dream as a shield to hide behind every time loving you feels risky. My vision blurred when I tried to speak. My voice cracked. What if we try this and it blows up? I asked. What if we make it real? And then you realize you were right in the first place, that love is a liability. He took another step, close enough now that I could feel the heat radiating off him, smell the faint mix of sweat and fabric softener. Then, I'll take responsibility for that, Jungkook said. I'll never again tell you that your love is the problem. If something breaks, it's because I wasn't strong enough, not because you were too much. He lifted one hand, paused. Can I? He asked. Fingers hovering near my cheek, I nodded, throat too tight for words. His fingers brushed along my jaw, tracing up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. I shivered. Do you still love me? He asked. Barely above a whisper. Honesty had always been our baseline, painful necessary. I tried to stop, I said. I wrote versions of my life where you were my what if instead of my no matter what. I tried to picture saying yes to people who don't flinch from the word love. His hand trembled, and he pressed. And I still ended up here, I admitted, on a stairwell, listening to you apologize. And it still hurts. But the idea of walking away and never hearing you sing something we built again hurts more. His eyes closed for a second, like he was absorbing the words. When he opened them, they were shining. Is that a yes? He asked hoarsely. It's a we try, I said. We set new rules together. And you don't get to say, don't fall for me ever again. You don't get to make me feel like my love is a threat. He let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Deal, Jungkook said. The only thing I'm going to say from now on is fall harder. And then I'll jump first. Before I could decide if that was the cheesiest thing he'd ever said or the best, he leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. Our lips met softly, at first testing, tasting. I'd imagined kissing him 100 times, always in sweeping, cinematic scenes. Reality was messier. His nose bumped mine. Our teeth clicked once. We both laughed against each other's mouths, breath mingling. Then his fingers slid to the back of my neck, thumb stroking small circles, and something in both of us broke open. He kissed me like a confession, deep, lingering, pouring all the words he'd been too afraid to say into the press of his mouth. His other hand found my waist, gripping, pulling me flush against him like he needed me closer to stay upright. I fisted my hands in his hoodie, tugging him down, matching his urgency. The stairwell tilted. The distant festival noise faded. There was only the warm, solid weight of him and the soft, desperate sounds we made when we parted just enough to breathe, and then found each other again like magnets. When we finally broke apart, foreheads still touching, we were both breathing hard. Wow, he whispered. I snorted. That your official post-kiss review? Yeah, he said. 5 stars. Would recommend. 10 out of 10. Would ruin my carefully constructed emotional walls again. I laughed, feeling something unclench inside me. Then his expression turned serious. I'm sorry, Jungkook said, voice low, for every time I made you feel small. For every time I used my dream as an excuse. for asking you not to fall when I'd already fallen and was just too scared to look down. A tear slipped down my cheek. He caught it with his thumb. Thank you, I whispered, for finally jumping. They choose each other, but their world hasn't heard the new rules yet. /N. He can't change the past, but he can decide who he is from now on. The boy who ran from love, or the man who holds it with both hands. Author's Pav. A week later, the campus felt like a different planet. Post-festival fatigue had settled in, but the band's set had gone minor viral in student circles. Clips of Jungkook's high notes and their final run circulated on social media. Comments full of "he's not staying here long. Is he? And someone give this man a contract." Between classes and studio time, Jungkook juggled emails from small talent agencies and invitations to audition for bigger ones. He read them carefully, jaw set, phone screen casting a bluish light on his face whenever he sat alone at the back of the cafe. Y/N watched from across the table, notebook open, pencil tapping. Squinting, she said. Thinking, he replied. Same thing, she shot back. Echoing his old words, he smirked, then sobered. They want clean images, Jungkook said. Polished, hungry, married to the music types. And what are you? She asked. Hungry, married to the music, he replied. Not as clean as they think, and very much in love with my vocal coach. She rolled her eyes, cheeks warming. Say it like that, she muttered. People will think I'm corrupting you. You are, he said. You corrupted my entire worldview. I used to think no dating was a personality trait. She laughed. He reached across the table, hooking his pinky around hers under the notebooks where no one could see. Question, Jungkook said quietly. If the company I end up with tries to pull a no relationships clause, what do you want me to do? She stilled. He watched her carefully. I want you to fight for what you want, Y/N said after a moment. If that means negotiating. If it means walking away from places that only want you if you're alone. If it means finding a way to keep us private for a while until we know we're solid. She tightened her pinky around his. I don't want to be the reason you don't chase something big, she added, but I'm also not going to be the secret you're ashamed of. Never be ashamed of you, he said instantly. I'd be ashamed of myself if I pretended you didn't exist. Her chest warmed. Then we figure it out, she said simply, case by case, together. He exhaled slowly, tension easing from his shoulders. Together, he echoed. A shadow fell over their table. Look at you two, the drummer drawled, dropping his bag onto the chair beside them, pretending like we don't all know you're making heart eyes under that table. Y/N jerked her hand back. Jungkook, didn't he? Laced their fingers fully now, above the table, gaze calm. Who's pretending? He asked. The drummer blinked, then grinned. Took you long enough, he said. We had a betting pool, you know. Y/N groaned, burying her face in her hands. Kill me. Can't, the drummer said cheerfully. We need you for the next set, and also Jungkook would murder me. Accurate, Jungkook said later that night. They snuck back into the now quiet auditorium. The fairy lights were still up, casting a softer glow over the empty stage. Y/N sat on the edge. Legs swinging, Jungkook lay on his back beside her, head resting on a rolled-up hoodie, eyes on the ceiling. It feels smaller now, he said. The room, she asked. The world it represents, he replied. I used to think this stage was everything. Now it feels like chapter 1. Dramatic, she teased. You like me dramatic, he said, she hummed. Maybe. He rolled onto his side, propping his head up on his hand. You know what I realized? Jungkook asked. That you need to stop drinking energy drinks at 11 p.m., she guessed. That too, he said, but also, I didn't just ask you not to fall for me. I asked myself not to fall for you. I tried to treat you like another staff member, another helper, another voice in the room. He reached out, tracing gentle patterns on the back of her hand. And I failed, he said softly. I fell anyway, hard, quiet, denying it the whole way down, until you finally started climbing out, and I realized I'd hit the bottom alone. Her eyes stung. You didn't have to do it alone, she whispered. I know that now, he said, now that I've pulled my head out of my own fear. He sat up fully, turning to face her. Y/N, Jungkook said, more serious. I can't promise this will be easy. If when I debut, things will get crazy. There will be rumors, distance, people who think they know me better than you do because they've watched more fancams. She snorted. Unlikely, he smiled. I will mess up, he continued. I'll forget texts. I'll let pressure get to me. I'll have days where I want to shut down and go back to being the guy who says don't before anyone gets close. He took her hands in his, thumbs stroking the backs. But I will never again make you feel like loving me is a problem to solve, Jungkook said. I will never again ask you not to fall. If anything, I'm asking you to keep falling with me, even when it's scary, especially then. Her heart swelled so much it almost hurt. I don't need perfect, Y/N said. I just need you to show up, to talk to me when you're scared instead of pushing me away, to let me be there in the ugly bits, not just the pretty ones. He nodded, eyes shining. Deal, he whispered. He leaned in, kissing her softly this time. No urgency, just promise. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. Hey, Jungkook, she murmured. Yeah. Remember when you said, don't fall for me? She asked. He groaned. Don't remind me. I cringe every time I think about it. She smiled. I'm glad you shattered, she said quietly. Not because it didn't hurt. It did. But because sometimes things have to break before they can fit together right. He huffed a breathy laugh. And us? He asked. Do we fit? She pretended to consider it. Your socks don't, she said. But you and me? Yeah, I think we do. He glanced down at his mismatched socks, offended. Rude, she laughed, pushing his shoulder. He let himself fall back dramatically onto the stage, flinging an arm over his eyes. Can I ask one more selfish thing? He asked. She lay down beside him, staring up at the ceiling. Depends, she said. Is it going to involve another emotional whiplash? Maybe, he replied. Write with me, not just as coach, as co-writer, for whatever comes next. I want our story in my songs, not just buried in the harmonies. Her chest tightened. You want to risk people guessing? She asked. He turned his head to look at her. I want to risk building something real, Jungkook said. If people hear a little too much truth in my lyrics, good. At least, I'll know you hear yourself in them too. She swallowed past the lump in her throat. Okay, she whispered. We write it together. He smiled, slow and bright. Then that's our new rule, he said. No more don't, only together. As they lay there, fingers intertwined, the empty auditorium around them felt less like an ending and more like a rehearsal space for the life ahead. There would be bigger stages, and harsher lights, and louder noise. But somewhere in all of it, there would also be two people who remembered a narrow stairwell, a shaky voice, and the night the boy who asked her not to fall finally admitted he'd been the one falling first /n. He thought telling her not to love him would keep his heart safe. Instead, it only broke when she finally started listening. In the end, some risks are worth shattering for, especially when you choose to fall together.